Welcome to Your True Calling. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Dr. Michelle Chappell, a psychologist and a rock star. I've helped thousands of people find their true purpose by discovering their one-of-a-kind superpowers. Each week, I'll share tools and client success stories to help you find gifts you don't know you have so that you can thrive in a career that fills your soul and passion projects that make you feel whole. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be talking to Kate Duffley today. She's an associate professor in the theater department at Reed College in Portland, Oregon. She teaches really interesting classes in acting and performance, race and identity in American theater, directing, and puppetry. And she's bringing all of these different gifts together to host the first annual Everything Under the Sun Parade on Saturday, June 15th in Sellwood. We're going to talk about how Kate wandered through acting and then history to finally discover her true calling as a teacher and a director. Her aha moment came when she realized that she could merge theater with social activism. We're going to talk about how you can find your true gifts and combine them into a greater calling too. We're also going to get into more details about the parade and how you can be a part of it and how you can take free puppet making workshops. Let's get into it. Hi, Kate. I'm so happy you're here on my podcast today. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me, for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So you are an associate professor in the theater department at Reed College in Portland, Oregon. And
Yes.
you also do community-based performance, acting, directing. The reason we know each other is because we both play in this ukulele group called SMIRC, which stands for Sellwood Moreland Ukulele Revival Club, spelled with a K. So
Yes.
that tells you a lot. But the reason why we're doing this podcast is because you're putting together a wonderful parade, and I'm really excited about it. It's called the first annual Everything Under the Sun Parade. It's going to happen in June 15th, and our ukulele group is going to be a part of it, and there's going to be giant puppets and all kinds of cool things, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. But first, I want to talk to you about you.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about all of it.
The reason why you're perfect for this podcast is because you've got a lot of gifts and talents, and you have a lot of callings, and they seem like they kind of combine in really interesting ways, which is good for people to hear about because I think sometimes people don't realize they can do that.
Mhm.
But this podcast is designed to help people find their unique superpowers,
Mhm.
gifts, and passions that they may not know that they have yet, or they may know that they have them, but they're not confident in using them. And I'd
Mhm.
like to talk to people who have found theirs and found their callings and sort of talk about your life journey to give hints and clues to listeners to help them find theirs.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah. I'm kind of hoping you'll give me a hint and clue about where mine are. I mean, because I think you're right. I think I'm aligned with my purpose, and I'll be curious if you have reflections on that. I'll just be curious to hear what they are.
Oh, I'd be happy to do that. I actually, the last guest I interviewed, we did discover a superpower she didn't know she had. So I'm
Cool.
game if you're game.
Yeah.
You just have such interesting things that you do. So you teach acting and performance, race and identity in American theater, directing and puppetry. And I wanted to talk to you about all of those things. And then you also direct and you act yourself.
Mhm.
I thought I'd like to talk about each one of those, maybe one at a time, and just get a little bit of a sort of like a backstory. And I thought I would start with acting.
Okay, cool. You might get the backstory to a lot of them, like, all at once.
That's fine.
So
So, how old were you when you first noticed that you were drawn to acting, or knew you were good at it, or do you remember?
So I think my first experience with performing of any kind was in church. I was in a pageant, a Christmas pageant, and I think I was the angel Gabriel or something, and I got a lot of feedback from people afterwards, like, wow, you have such an incredible voice, and like, wow, you have such great presence. And I just really loved getting that praise. And I also was a super shy kid. Like I'm definitely an introvert. And also as a kid, I was an introvert, but also I don't feel like I'm a shy person anymore, although I'm still an introvert, but I was shy. And so it was not expected, I think, that I would be drawn towards something that involved performance. So that was the first time. And then I kind of tried acting a little bit as I got a little bit older in high school. But I was just like too nervous. I tried to audition and I was like, my hands were like shaking holding the audition sheet. And the director was so nice. And he was like, maybe, you know what? I think you might really enjoy working as part of stage crew. And I did. And then I think I changed schools, which allowed me to like expand my like identity a little bit. And so that's when I started acting um kind of more regularly. And in college, I also was acting a little bit. Yeah, but it was in college where I really kind of like exploded my relationship to theater.
Why do you think that was?
I met two great professors. One was my history professor, who is also my advisor, Peter Ratcliffe, who's a labor historian and like a public intellectual, and his partner, Beth Cleary, who was a theater professor. And I took an incredible class with her where I learned about El Teatro Campesino, which is a theater company that worked with the United Farm Workers Union. And I read a bunch of other playwrights, Cherie Moraga, Naomi Wallace, Susan Laurie Parks. And I was like, oh my God, I was really interested in um, political organizing, the labor movement, movements for social justice. And also, I love to act. But when I took this class with Beth, I was like, oh my God, you can do both. There's theater that is political. Who knew? It was totally a revelation to me.
That is so cool. I see you're already combining parts of
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
natural to do that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that gave you some kind of confidence that you didn't have before, or what lit you up about that? Maybe was it just because the political aspect of it really in the activism really drew
I
you?
think, I think, um, I think before that moment, I don't think I really, so I'm dealing with this with my daughter right now, where she sort of doesn't feel like she has a thing. Like she's just interested in a lot of things, but doesn't feel like she really excels at any one thing. And I really felt that way. Or I didn't really think about it. I just looking back, I'm like, that's who I was. There was no, I love to read, but I just kind of hung out by myself and I read a lot and I didn't have a thing. I was not into sports. I acted a little bit, but that wasn't even a real thing of mine. And so I wonder if this was the first time where I really felt like passionately about something, or I felt like, yeah, I haven't thought about it, but really it felt like a revelation, bringing together these two things that to me, prior to that, to learning about these examples, it truly had not occurred to me that these things could go together, that theater and social justice work were aligned in any way.
Hmm. Yeah. And then you teach a class, Race and Identity in American Theater. I was going to ask you about that anyway, but let's go
Yeah.
now. Tell me about that class and what are you doing in that space? It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so that is a class. We're learning a little bit, sort of we start in the 1960s. I'm teaching a lot of the um, work that blew my mind when I went to college, starting around the 1960s and kind of going up to the present. And um, looking a lot at race and representation and the ways in which We look at a couple different things, but one of the things that we're looking at are the ways that in a theatrical context it could be empowering for certain racial groups, could be a place where racial groups might be able to tell their story or see themselves represented on stage. Could be a way to intervene in prior negative racial stereotypes by like creating new representations that feel like they more accurately reflect the lived experiences of the people who are being represented. Yeah, that's some of what we're doing, and kind of trying to broaden the scope of what my students understand to be part of like the American theatrical canon.
Hmm. Well, I'm just, I'm going out of order because of what you said. I have these nice little questions.
Sorry.
Oh, no, 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 no. Because I was going to ask you, well, I think I'll just go there and then I'll tie it into what I want to ask next. But what
Yeah.
about teaching? So you found that you wanted to act. What about teaching? Was that something that you knew early on you wanted to do, or is that something that came to you later?
No, not at all. My dad said to me, I think when I was younger, like, oh, well, you could think about being a teacher. And I kind of felt like he was saying it to me because he really couldn't think of anything else that I would do, which is insulting to teachers and was insulting to me too. But I think, like, like I said, I didn't have a thing. There was nothing that I was like particularly like charged about or like really into. So I feel like he said that because he really didn't know. Or maybe he did. Maybe he had some special insight into what my skills were or my superpower. But for me, I was always like, nah, man, it didn't really occur to me as a thing I would want to do. Even when I went to grad school, I truly had no idea what I was getting myself into. I thought that I wanted to go back to school. I had been out for 4 or 5 years. I knew I wanted to be involved in theater in some way and to continue to ask these questions that had got me really excited about the relationship between theater and social justice. And beyond that, I did not know. It's so funny to look back at it now that like it's so obvious that like going into getting a PhD, like that's where you're headed. You're going to be a scholar, an academic, and a teacher. Um, but it probably was like only partway through my graduate program that I really started to dawn on me what that would mean. And because I was teaching as a graduate student.
Ah,
I would say now that is the thing that I love most about what I do is teaching. And I do think I'm good at it. Yeah.
hmm.
But it's something I've learned over time.
I was a teacher in graduate school too, teaching assistant. So I did that too. So I know what you mean. And that's when I realized, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
I resonate with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to say that for the listeners that you have an MA in performance studies from New York, NYU, New York University, and then you got your PhD in performance studies again from the University of California, Berkeley. And I see that, and the reason why I wanted to ask you about this right now is that you also taught as an instructor there. And one of the classes that got my eye was the drama of American culture's race, gender, and performance.
Hmm.
Doing it even
Yeah.
then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that the class I teach now really is modeled on a similar version of the one that I taught at UC Berkeley, although that was a much larger, that was like 100, 25, 150 person lecture hall. And the classes that I teach now are much smaller, which I like. I prefer.
How big are they at Reed class?
We have a cap at 24. And I would say usually the students in my, it's probably around more like 18 or so who take the race and identity in American theater class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, small.
Can you tell listeners a little bit about how Reed works? Because Reed is kind of a different
Mhm.
animal than other
Yeah.
colleges. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a liberal arts college, and we have really small classes. So all of our courses are capped at 24 students, and our classes are kind of most of them are based on a conference model. So it really is based like we're all seated around a table, and we are having a conversation in the classroom. Um, because the classes are so small, it allows for a lot more connection between the professor and the students. Um, we also, one other thing that's really notable about Read is that students receive grades, but they don't see them. So that kind of de-emphasizes the grade and puts more of an emphasis on the learning.
Oh, wow.
That's the idea anyway.
So they never find out what the grades are?
They can find out what their grades are. So, and they need to, like if they're applying to grad school or a fellowship, they really need to know what their grades are. They can ask their advisor for their grades. They can request an unofficial transcript. So they can get their grades. But it sort of sets up a culture that de-emphasizes grades. And so there is less of a, I never ever have a student, I don't think, maybe one time I've had a student come ask me about their grade for a class. Usually they're a student, we're going to have a conversation about ideas, which is great. I love it so much.
That is so different. I used to be a professor and I'm still friends with professors and the conversation is usually about grade.
Yeah.
I want to get a better grade in this class
Yeah.
than the one that you gave me.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
And
true.
as a graduate student instructor, the same. I had so many conversations with students about they were unhappy with the grade I was giving them, or they really just wanted to get an A in the class and how could I give them an A in the class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have to deal with that as much. I think that's become a thing in more recent years. But I wanted to ask you more about teaching. So you said that you really, really felt that, you loved that. Maybe that's a calling for you, would you say?
I think it turns out it is. Yeah.
Can you say more about that? Like, how do you know that? How does it make you feel to do it? Why does it feel like maybe it's a calling?
Um, I think that, I've read a little bit about this idea of like flow state. It's one of the few things that I do that when I'm doing it, I often can feel like I'm in a flow. Um, I really love the age range that I teach. Like 18 to 21-year-olds are amazing to get, so that I get to be around them all the time. I mean, they're amazing and they have their challenges. But they're amazing because they're so like on the brink, right? They're like emerging and the students that I get to work with are so curious about the world, and they are often like, I felt this way, like they really feel like they know a lot. And in truth, I do learn a lot from them, and I have learned a lot from them. And there's something that is like so, you get to feel so bold when you are that age, and like you feel like you know so much and you are so ready to like be in the world. And I think you could have like a really cynical, condescending response to that, which is like, you think you know so much. Well, let me tell you, like, you don't know nothing, like just you wait. And I think that's a real shame, because there's a way that they do know so much. Like they actually, they maybe don't know a lot in terms of like have life experience, but there's a certain kind of knowledge that they have that I don't have anymore. Like I have knowledge that they haven't gotten yet and they can't have yet, but they also have a knowledge and like a way of being in the world that I don't have access to anymore, but I get to like be in conversation with and to learn from. And I love that so much. I feel like I get so much from it. So in some ways I'm like, is it a calling, or is it just that like I get this huge benefit from getting to be around these rad young people?
Hello, dear listeners. I just wanted to take a pause to check in with you. Yes, Kate found her true calling in teaching. One of the hallmarks of finding your true vocation is that it puts you in a flow state when you do it. But also, did you notice how much joy she had in her voice and how many times she said she loved teaching at Reed and she loved teaching this age group? I have a feeling that Kate's true calling in teaching is to work with these younger people. I was a psychology professor once, and I can tell you that not all teachers are created equal. Some are better than others, and Kate is definitely one of the greats. It's because she understands how to reach them. I also love to work with this age group as a coach and a consultant. And what I have learned, just as Kate has learned, is that having a conversation with them and learning from them, as well as teaching them, is the strongest way to form a bond and to create a wonderful teaching and learning opportunity. It's collaborative. And I've seen it before at the Launching Pad in Berkeley, California, which is a New Thought church for young adults. Instead of preaching at them, the Reverend had a conversation with them. It went back and forth. They answered questions, wrote them down, cried, shared their experiences. And that's what allowed this ministry to grow. I had the honor of singing there a couple of times. And I've also seen it in the workplace. Every once in a while, you'll find a manager who has conversations with the people who report to them rather than just telling them what to do. They find out what they're good at and try to assign work projects that align with their strengths. Not that many people do this, but I highly recommend it. And so I just want to applaud Kate for not only being a teacher, but a teacher who understands our younger generations. We need more of that. So what does this all have to do with you? Well, remember how Kate had an aha moment that led to her calling? And that moment was that two different parts of her, two different sides of her interest could come together to become a greater calling. In her case, she started out acting, which led to theater and performance. She was getting a bachelor's in history and studying theater on the side. And the big aha moment was that she could bring them together in social justice. Now, there is a very good chance that you've got a couple of different sides to you, a couple of different interests that don't seem like they go together, but they really do. I once had a client who I will call Maria. She was a police detective in San Jose, California, and she was not being promoted, and she felt like she should just retire early and do what she always wanted to do, which was to travel the world. So she took a workshop from me because she thought that I could help her start writing travel brochures, which is what she thought she should do. The only problem is she didn't really like to write. And every week she would come to that workshop carrying a gun, and I was not making any progress. And so one day I looked at her and I just saw that she really loved being in the police. And she really wanted to travel. Writing, not so much. So I said to her, why does it have to be either or? Why can't it be both? And what ended up happening is that Maria got a job with the United Nations training the police force in Bosnia to adopt human rights procedures. She brought her passion for traveling together with her superpower for police work. That's how it works. So think about yourself for a moment. What fills you with passion? Even if it doesn't seem like it's a job, don't worry about that. Just what really fills you with passion and curiosity? What brings you joy? And what are you particularly good at, or it comes easy to you? Now, rather than thinking that these things have to be kept separate, what would happen if you merged them, if you brought them together? I'll tell you, in my case, I was a teacher. I loved being a teacher, but I left that career to become a rock and roll star. For the past 20 years, I've brought psychology and music together in workshops and in coaching programs to help people find their true gifts and true purpose. So I was able to bring these different sides of me together that seemingly didn't go together. It was very natural. So somebody who might look at you and say, well, you can't put those things together. That doesn't make any sense. But if these gifts and passions are inside of you, they may very well want to merge. And in fact, I found that people really come into their power when they're able to combine it all. So just listen to the rest of this conversation with Kate and see if anything pops up for you around that. And also, sometimes a calling is a mission, a project in particular. In Kate's case, it's the parade that she's going to put on, which we're going to talk about in this second half. And in my case, it's this podcast. It's the book I'm writing right now. These are callings, these are missions. You can almost think of them as mission projects, things that you want to put out in the world to bring your gifts together and help make the world a better place. The world needs that right now. Everybody has something special about them to offer that no one else has. And I really believe that we are living in a time when people need to own whatever that special gift is and bring it out to the world, because we each have a piece of the puzzle and together we can solve problems in the world. So I want to empower you to do that. It will come naturally to you, I promise, just like Kate's path. Next, we're going to talk about how Kate also discovered that directing is her calling, and information about her beautiful parade and how you can become a part of it and start your own passion project. Let's go. Now, about teaching, it's a calling because one of the hallmarks of finding your calling is that it puts you into a flow state. That's one of the big I've found over the years from working with a lot of people. That's one of the big ones. What about acting? Does that put you in a flow state?
Well, so I mean, I have to say, like, I have acted, I have taught acting. I don't, it's a bit out of date. I don't really teach acting so much anymore. That has not been my professional training, although it has been something that I have done. I did recently, I performed a couple years ago, about 2 summers ago, um, in a devised piece that I co-created with a colleague of mine, and I was a performer in that. But that's not something I do so much anymore, honestly. I'm more of a director.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That was another one I wanted to talk to
Yeah.
you. So when did you figure out that you were interested in directing?
I just had a hunch. I had a hunch that I wanted to do it. That was part of the reason for going to grad school. I got really lucky that I got to also have the opportunity to direct while I was doing my graduate program and to take classes, take directing classes as part of that kind of interdisciplinary training that I was getting. So I directed some smaller things, and the first main stage piece I directed was when I was a graduate student, a kind of advanced graduate student at UC Berkeley. I directed a play by Naomi Wallace called Slaughter City.
Mm.
And that was one of those plays that I read as an undergrad with that professor, Beth Cleary, that kind of blew my mind. And Naomi Wallace is an American playwright. And this play, it kind of brings together a lot of things that I am really interested in. When I'm going to describe it, it may sound dry, but it is this incredible, like funny, beautifully written, kind of poetically written play. But it has themes and stories that connect the history of the labor movement and race and gender, sexuality, some kind of supernatural elements. And so all of this combined in this really stunning play, which I got to direct as my first kind of large scale production. And I think that probably was, while I had a hunch about it, I hadn't really had such a chance to, like, I taken classes and directed smaller pieces. But this was sort of the moment where I was like, oh yeah, I love this.
Oh, yeah, that's a good indicator that you're in alignment with what you're here to do.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I also wanted to talk to you about puppetry, which makes sense because then we'll talk
Mhm.
about the parade. But when did you get into that? And what does it all involve?
Yeah. So again, it ties back to these great professors I had in undergrad.
And you were
Beth,
getting a degree in history.
yeah, in history, but I was taking a lot of theater classes.
Okay.
And so I learned about, are you familiar with Bread and Puppet?
No.
So they are a theater company in Glover, Vermont, um, headed by Peter Schumann. And I wish I had pictures to show you, but it wouldn't help your listeners at all. So they've been around since the 1960s, creating these stunning large scale puppets, usually made out of paper mache. So they've been, in the 1960s, they were involved in a lot of anti-war protests in New York. So they would travel to New York and be part of like big processions. But they also have a farm in Glover, Vermont, where they've done a lot of their performance. And these are like large scale, epically large scale puppets and performances that they'll take place in a large field. And their kind of ethos is art is like food. It everybody, it should be for everybody. Like art is like bread. And at Bread and Puppet, they make bread and they give bread to their guests. And so the idea behind making these like really truly gorgeous sculptures out of paper mache are that this is almost free, such cheap material, right? That to be able to make beautiful art and offer it to the masses in a kind of free or cheap way was part of the ethos of this theater company. So I started learning about them, and I got a chance to travel to Vermont and perform a piece that we had worked on as a college production outdoors as part of their summer festival. They had this was the last year that I think it was 1998. Our Domestic Resurrection Circus is what it was called, and this is the last year of that iteration of this kind of summer festival performance. And I got a chance to work with them and make puppets with them. So that was my introduction.
I just think it's very interesting just for listeners to make sure I have this right, but
Yeah.
you're getting a degree in history.
Yep.
And no, that's really important for people to hear though, because I like to give hints and clues to people. Like maybe the thing that you are majoring in, it may seem like the thing that you're going into, but it might be that side interest or that minor that really pulled you, and give it a chance if it speaks to you, right?
Totally. So I had a moment when I was in college. I'll say more about puppets, but I had a moment when I was in college where I was like, oh, should I double major in theater and history? And I thought, oh no, I don't. I mean, first of all, I have to take this class that I don't want to take in order to be the major. And I just kind of like acting and it's just for fun. I did theater a disservice because I just thought, well, whatever. It's not as, I think I had some idea that it was a just for fun kind of thing. And I did not, and also I maybe didn't take myself seriously. I didn't think, oh, I can't do that. This is for, really good actors or like people who are real artists will do this. And that is not me. So I'm just gonna stick over here. And I don't know why history was the place that I thought I would stick into, but
Professor had a partner who was in theater and arts.
yeah, yeah.
Like that was just a really beautiful thing that was handed to you.
And my professor, Peter Ackleff, was so wonderful in that he saw my interest and was like, I think you
Mhm.
need to meet Beth. Yeah.
I think the universe was giving you a helping hand there. The reason I say that, it may sound woo-woo, I know, but I've just heard this way too many times from way too many people when they tell me their stories. It just
Yeah.
something gets dangled in front of them that they weren't thinking they were going to do, and then they do it. So,
Yeah. The other thing that happened that leads directly to the parade in Minneapolis, where I was going to college, there was a May Day parade that happened every year with these giant puppets. And that also is an inspiration for me as I got to thinking about this parade. So last summer, I was doing a big kind of life audit, and I realized like, oh, I really want to focus more on cultivating community and cultivating for my own self spaces of play and creativity. And I'd been really bemoaning the fact that I was not doing enough, that the world is, that there's so many hard things happening in the world. And like, what am I doing? And what do I have to offer? And I thought, well, I'm just a theater person. Like, who needs theater anymore? And I thought, well, okay, wait a minute, because it actually has been really important to you. And why not do the thing that you think is actually really valuable, which is, your mind was blown by this connection between just working for justice and community and theater. Perhaps that would be a draw for other people too. And perhaps that is something, if that's the thing you have to offer, why not go ahead and bring that thing? So I thought, oh, I want to do a parade like the one in Minneapolis. But maybe I can't do a whole citywide parade right off the bat. And I've been working with these great people in my neighborhood. And I think that the ukulele group was part of kind of having all the pieces click together for me, of like how much benefit I have gotten from playing with our group. And to sort of like this idea of community joy and how valuable that is at the heart of the parade. And plus thinking like, oh, and a parade is really street theater. That is what it is. And so that is something that I do, and that's something that I could bring. And so could I kind of take this spirit of community joy that I've already been stoking for myself and like spread it out a little bit further by connecting to the skill set that I have in theater and making puppets.
I love that. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. You are answering your bigger calling, I think, by doing this parade. And that's one of the reasons why, I mean, we were already talking about ways of getting your message out and letting people know that this is happening. But I was also thinking, this is a mission. This is big. And I want to honor it. And I just wanted to just say for listeners who have never come to any of our ukulele practices that I don't know what it is, but it's so fun sitting with this ragtag group of people.
Yes.
And we're doing the best we can on these instruments, singing these songs, and there is so much joy afterwards, and you just get to know people in your neighborhood. And I haven't done anything like that before. I mean, I'm a musician, per se, a professional. This just feels more like joy and play and fun and heart opening and loving your neighbor.
Heart opening. I think that's really right. Like, I know you are a musician, and maybe there are a couple of others in our group, but most of us, I never touched a ukulele. All right, that's not true. I never played really a ukulele before. It hasn't even been a year that we've been playing together.
Yeah.
And now we're going to be in a parade. And it is heart opening. And it is like just getting to spend so much time with people who I never would have connected with.
I know.
And now we're in each other's houses because there was a accident, or the damage to the Selwood Community House where we were meeting. And so we had to go find other places to be. And it has been even more wonderful to go into people's homes and play together in people's homes.
No, I'm so right with you on that. And
Yeah.
and I want to be part of your parade too. There's going to be a giant paper mache sun puppet that leads it, right?
Yes.
And then tell people about your walking float idea. I think that's so cool.
Yes. So that is my hope. So anybody can just show up on the day of June 15th at 1:30, and you can walk. You could dress up, whatever you want to do. But the walking float would be if you wanted to get with some other friends and register. You could just email me at selwoodparade@gmail.com to do that.
I'm going to put a link in.
Okay, great. And just with any theme, something that brings you joy, something that has is connected to your like community joy. So ours is the ukuleles. They're going to be showing up. There's another group that just registered, and they are Dandelions in the Wind. And they're dressing up as dandelions, and they're going to like come together and be a big giant dandelion. And then someone else is the wind, and it's going to blow them, and they're going to blow away and then come back together again. And that's like their choreography for the parade.
my God, that's so creative.
Yes. And so, I mean, and that is sort of fulfilled exactly my wish for that, for those that walking float idea. And I, but there'll also be some other community groups in the parade. So Kim's Taekwondo in Selwood will be walking, and so they'll probably have their banner and they'll be wearing their Taekwondo outfit. Yeah. And so there'll be just I think a bunch more musicians will be walking. Anybody can join.
I
I
love that.
imagine people coming with their pets, pets in costume, or dressing up like, I don't know, their backyard pollinators, whatever.
Yeah, and you have book lovers unite,
Oh,
have your
yeah.
here, pick a theme, grab a group of friends, collaborators, and or neighbors, and join the parade. And I just wanted to read something that you wrote in a message to all of us. We believe that building strong community connections is essential for our collective well-being. The parade is a celebration of our shared humanity and a reminder that joy and connection are powerful antidotes to the stresses of modern life. I love that. I think you're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month too.
Yeah. I mean, I know that we are in a loneliness epidemic, and that loneliness is really bad for our health. And I know that for myself, I was feeling burnt out, that the pandemic kind of heightened for a lot of people things that were already there in our culture, like in a like be productive all the time consumer culture. There's an idea that like that the ideas associated with that have kind of keep us alienated and keep us lonely when we're putting work first, right? Yeah, I think just this is really a way to kind of combat that, to be connected to other people, to find some joy.
Right on. Well, thank you, Kate, for sharing your parade and your wisdom with us today.
Fun. Thank you for inviting me. So fun.
I'll see you tonight.
Oh yeah, I'll see you
Yeah.
tonight.
Dear listeners, I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. As we wrap up Mental Health Awareness Month, it's a great time to talk about our current loneliness epidemic. Did you know that over 60% of U.S. adults crave connection, especially Gen Z and young millennials? And did you know that many people don't answer their calling because they're worried that they're misfits, that others will find out how truly strange they are? Often our true purpose becomes clear once we embrace what makes us different from everyone else instead of trying to fit in. To truly change your life, you need to feel like you belong to a tribe who understands you. And that's why I created this podcast. I'm going to include links in the show notes to the parade. And also, Kate is offering a free public puppet building workshop at the Smile Station in Selwood on June 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. And I will be there. So if you want to become part of the parade, please join us. And sometimes it can be daunting to try to figure out what your true calling is. I hear you. It may be easier for you to just take up a project that is meaningful to you. It can be anything. For Kate, it's a parade. For me, it's this podcast. What can you do that would really give you a sense of fulfillment and joy? Just a project that you can do for yourself that perhaps you can involve others in. It doesn't have to be super important. Don't worry about making a huge impact on the world. As climate justice activist Greta Thunberg says, no one is too small to make a difference. Just do something that makes your heart go pitter-patter, and I promise you, it's going to lift others' hearts up too. Thank you, Kate, so much for doing this interview and for being in community with me and so many others. I'm so glad you were on my show today. The Everything Under the Sun Parade happens on June 15th at 1:30 p.m. starting at Selwood Park. If you want to get involved, email selwoodparade@gmail.com or click on a link in the show notes. Be part of the movement to reclaim community joy. I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to Your True Calling. Please leave a review and share it with your friends. From my website, yourtruecalling.org, you can follow me on social media, learn more about my music and my coaching, contact me to find your superpowers live on the air, and help me produce future episodes by funding me on Patreon.